What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show, or the TEPS podcast, as we have been lately calling it. Just trying to get everybody used to that. But guys, I hope you're having a good night tonight. We have got some good discussion, and of course, if we get some people in the comments tonight, we may have some good interaction as well. So, guys, we are going to be discussing coming up here, really like Christianity and ghost hunting and things like that. It's something I've been um, discussing. When I went on my trip to Michigan, I had a good friend of mine um, had a quite lengthy discussion with me over some beers and stuff, and it was a great discussion. But something I also wanted to put out there to people too as well. I always like to hear a variety of sides of things, and I posted the question on Facebook recently, got a lot of results. There was an overwhelming amount of people that agreed, had some great articles, or at least a really good article from one of my good friends. And it was specifically sort of Catholic based. So we're going to get into some of this. We're going to get into some of this discussion. So I'm excited. We're also going to talk a little bit about life and death and my theories about life and death as well. Of course, you can find a lot of my theories in my book on Amazon called My Paranormal: A Guide to the Spirit Realm. So if you haven't bought it, go check it out. There's not an Audible version. I'm sorry. I probably will do one someday, or at least maybe my next book. So, but in any case, but yeah, let's dive into some of this. So, I guess the first thing is like, look, you know, Christianity. There's a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, when it comes to ghost hunters, not a lot of ghost hunters, or I should say, there's probably a good amount of ghost hunters that may not even really worry about whether they're Christian or not. And then there's going to be some people that are, and they are ghost hunters. And um, so, first and foremost, just to kind of let you know my position that, I consider myself a Christian. In fact, I'm even a believer of Jesus Christ. I wrote a book about paranormal. I have a show on Paraflix called TEPS Investigates. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and been involved in the world. And I believe that through my investigations and through my research, it's actually brought me closer to God. And I've also had many people that have read my book and said, you know what, I'm going to actually pick up the Bible and read it. It doesn't mean that they're going to become hardcore Christians or something. It just means that they were fascinated to learn more of the cool stories that were in there that we're talking about, like portals and all kinds of cool stuff. So there's a lot that you can learn in something like that as well. These old ancient scriptures, and even a step further, not just the Bible, but even other scriptures as well that are around those times. So it's really cool. I really enjoy it. I love the study of paranormal. For me, it's not so much about. I think, like, when you really look at like things like the Bible, and you start getting into like Deuteronomy and things like that, um, mostly mostly what they're the main point is like to not gain future favor, not raising the dead, things like that. It's more nefarious purposes. And I think what I've always done for the most part, I think I've crossed the line a few times when it comes to, I have done some dowsing rod sessions in the past, and I have asked about future possibilities. And again, that is forbidden. Forms of divination, things like that. Some of that stuff is forbidden. But for me, I've always looked at, I've always had that respect um, for the dead. For me, it's when I do spirit communication, I'm not trying to save the ghost. I'm not trying to save the ghost. I never believed that was my role. Like if a ghost needed to go to the light, that's not my job, because I don't know what the rules specifically are beyond death. Okay. Now, some of your hardcore Christians are going to point to the Bible, and they're really going to go into um, the Second Corinthians 5:8, which is where Paul writes that we are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. And what he was discussing, again, this doesn't necessarily say specifically that it's going to be an immediate transition, although you could say the phrasing is saying to be without, the body is to be with the Lord, and so it's instant. But again, this is just assumed. There is no specific time, and this is Paul's hope and his desire, or his such a strong belief in that transition. So I respect that. I respect that quote from the Bible, and I believe it's really the anchor on that as well. But sometimes you have to look at other things when they start talking about like purgatory. The Catholics believe in purgatory, and they will a lot of times go back to like a Matthew Gospel 12:32, where Jesus states, "Whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven either in this age or in the age to come," implying that there's at least some sins that can be forgiven in the next life. So sometimes we can look at, is there a purgatory? And I think if you really look at all of the texts, and not even just biblical text, but if you really look at everything, because remember, you're trying to seek the truth, right? That's the ultimate goal, is seeking the truth. And usually the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And so when you really look at all of these texts and things, it really does seem as if, there is something beyond this death. And we will get into a little bit of the life after death stuff here in a little bit. But but again, I know that as somebody that uh, is in this world of both a ghost hunter and a Christian, it can be really daunting, and it can really play a part on you, and you can easily get ousted by some of your peers because I'm a Christian, but I'm not like one of those Christians that is, hardcore Bible thumping Christian. But I have my beliefs. I believe in what I believe, and I'm fine with that. But I'm also open to learn and to be there for spirits. Again, respect to the spirits. I like to hear their stories. I'm not out trying to save spirits, or they're like the ghosts. And I'm also trying to differentiate between, are these a ghost, or is this an evil spirit? There are evil spirits out there. We know this. They've been out there, and old scriptures have talked about evil spirits, and more so in the Bible. The Bible's always leaned toward more of evil spirits than they have actual ghosts. They do have spirits that can interact in good ways to earth, and generally those are angels, the ones that were working for the Lord. Now, whether you want to interpret that also as possible guardian angels, things like that, you can have that opinion also. But the Bible does lean toward demons and evil spirits. There's a little bit of difference, I guess you would say, but for the most part, the evil spirits come from the fallen Nephilim, the giants that were destroyed. This is part of God's punishment, and you can even trace this back. There's mentions of this stuff in Genesis, but you can trace back, if you want to know the specifics, you have to go into Enoch. and the Book of Enoch. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, the Book of Enoch's not in the Bible." Well, it's an ancient scripture. The ancient Christians used to consider it part of the Bible. Um, so, and there's nothing contradictory. And if you read the Book of Enoch, it's a missing puzzle piece. It really is. Um, I can't say that about other books not in the Bible, because some of those books are not supposed to be in the Bible. They were written after way after even the Bible. The Bible wasn't always written um, right as things happened either. It was written later on also. But some of these other books, Book of Mary, Book of Thomas, some of these things were just like, nah, that's not. But the Book of Enoch really was a Christian tool and fit in the Bible. And even the Bible did quote Enoch a few times. Once even specifically in Job, and I believe Jesus. So, in any case, don't be afraid of who you are. If you're a ghost hunter and you believe in God, um, you know, it's okay to be a Christian and be a ghost hunter. Now, if you are performing rituals and when it comes to like divination stuff and trying to gain favor, I mean, you're probably sinning, and that's probably not good. And again, I've crossed that line. I've crossed that line at times, and I have to ask for my forgiveness, and you know, but I don't do it often. Again, my main thing is to go out and investigate, find evidence of life after death. So why do it? Like, why ghost hunt and be a Christian? Well, the truth is, for me, it's the quest for magic. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you live in a time when we become less and less magical, you know, kids are believing in less. They got the internet now. They can just, in anywhere they turn, there's always something telling them, oh, there's no magic. Oh, you must believe in exact science. And they don't understand that science is based in God's laws, right? God's earth, the physics of this earth, the biology, all these things are God's science. So when they're learning about these rules, and these are all things that God created. So, but there used to be magic a lot. We were ghost hunting, and back you can trace it all the way back to the Sumerians. Some of the first believed culture of written text, and the first language that we had discovered that was written down was the Sumerians. And they talked about ghosts and demons. There was actually a difference. They could see ghosts and demons all over. You know, they had the sight, and there's many cultures throughout the thousands of years. Almost all cultures have talked about ghosts and demons, and had some kind of um, shaman and people that could combat these things. And over the years, that's dwindled down, because again, we get further and further away from magic, and we get this whole reality, and we close ourselves down as a society. So we're putting up walls, and we're paying for it because we're throwing balance off. We're throwing balance of life off. There was many cultures that, if you like one of the cultures in, I think it's like New Guinea, these Indians, they would pray before they cut down a tree. Like they would offer something in return for the tree. We had a balance. We had a balance with the gods, so to speak, Mother Nature, if you will. And there's a symbiotic circle in life, and it was great. And so that's why I'm saying, whether you believe it was true magic, but the thing is when you go back and you look at the amount of ancient cultures that were battling spirits and ghosts using rituals and spells, and and they got good at it, you know and they got good at using spells and fighting the dead, and then they started using it on each other. That's where black magic comes from. But they were ghost hunting, basically. They were in these battles. And so my point is that as a Christian, for me, I was starting to fall years ago. I was starting to fall into the whole science thing, and but then as I did more and more research into paranormal, the more paranormal research I did, the more I believed, the closer to God I got. And the reason is because it dawned on me one time. I said, when I finally started to find evidence that there was something beyond this life, then to me, that's supernatural. That's magical. And so for me, ghost hunting, for me, is the ultimate way to be close. Or no, I wouldn't say ultimate, but for me, it's in this extremely satisfying way to be closer to God, because interacting with spirits, you know, continually reinforces that faith, and it reinforces. And I know that there's like blind faith, faith is not based on seeing and stuff. But like I said, interacting with spirits and trying to show people that, it's like if people can see that, they could believe in magic as well. If you can believe in ghosts, that's supernatural. That's magic. And if you can believe in supernatural, if you can believe in that magic, then there has to be a God. There has to be a God. There's something past this. So whether you want to follow the true, like a Bible type of religion, like a structured religion or not, that's up to you. I'm not trying to tell you to go to church. I'm just telling you that it's okay to believe in God, and it's okay to even believe in Jesus Christ if you want, if you believe that stuff. And I do, based on just research, scriptures, and stories. But I just wanted to talk about Christianity ghost hunting because I just think it's important that to not worry about being made fun of, or not worried about being ostracized. Just do your thing. Have your beliefs. I don't shove them on you guys. Most of you guys that watch my videos and have followed me over the times here, I don't force views on you. I just give you these opinions. I just tell you how I feel based on my research, based on what I've been finding out there for all these years. And I try to take a realistic approach on these things. But ultimately, that's what it comes down to me, is finding that magic. And I know I'm simplifying it, but to just know that there's something out there, man, that's magical. It really is. And so I like that. But so let's kind of look a little bit into life after death. This is going to be hopefully a little bit of a shorter stream tonight, only because it's just myself tonight, and I just wanted to get on here. It's been a little bit. I was on vacation last week. I got to go back to Michigan, which is where I'm originally from. I hadn't been there in over 10 years, and I got to talk to a few old friends. I hung out with a girl up there, a woman. I met her. We spent a few nights, hanging out. But other than that, and it was like friend stuff, you know what I mean? Drinking a few drinks. And, like I said, I got to hang out with one of my best friends that I knew since I was 6. And I got to spend quite a bit of time with him. And even came back, spent a few more hours with him the next day. Another friend of mine, like I said, one of the first friends I hung out with when I was there, and we sat there and had some beers, and he had his kid with me, or with us, and his kid was like 13, 14 or something, but he was a well-spoken, very intelligent kid who was part of the conversation. And kind of mediated sometimes between me and his dad, because he kind of understood what I was trying to say. And of course, it's his dad too. And his dad had a lot of great points, but we debated. We debated Christianity and ghost hunting, and I respect that. It was a great conversation, and he brought up a lot of good points, and I love his dedication to the cause. And but again, when you look at the Bible and you look at everything as whole, um, yes, for sure, there was definitely an in between before Christ, for sure. Like we know that in the Old Testament, we know that there was spirits in like this purgatory. These were spirit realms. We know that. I think a lot of it comes down to um, when again people talk about post Christ life, but we also talked about too as well that Jesus does seem to imply that there is forgivable sins, which would also say that, well, if there's forgivable sins, where do you go for that? Right? Um, you can't just go to hell, and, because then your hell's like the furthest away from God's light, right? The coldest, darkest places. Um, so where would you go for that? And to me, that's where you have a little more of an afterlife, uh, almost like a purgatory, if you will. Now, I'm not saying that some say like sins like suicide would be something that you would go to purgatory forever. I don't know if there would be a forever purgatory. Um, it could be forgivable over a long, extended period of time. But in any case, I just feel like, so for me, let's get into life and death. So life and death. What I've kind of noticed over again, this is just years of investigating and researching and reading stories and seeing things and talking to people, and I wrote about this in my book. There's usually like two general deaths: expected and unexpected. Okay. And it just seems like there's so many stories about elderly people or not even just elderly people, but sometimes people that are terminal with cancer. They know they're getting closer to their deathbed. Um, they start often talking about, and sometimes a week or two from their actual death, they start talking about seeing relatives or seeing almost like angels, um, and just these experiences that they talk about up to the moment they die, and sometimes even will say certain things before they die. And sometimes they'll talk about a light or going to a light, or or angels or relatives in the room, people that were around relatives when they passed away. Sometimes they felt certain spiritual things. So that's very common, with a lot of stories that you hear. Now, there's unexpected deaths, and the unexpected deaths, I always like to look at those stories as the near death experiences, right? These are the ones that did technically die, but they came back. They were in an accident or, whatever the case is. They were not expected. Maybe it was like a sudden heart attack or something they didn't even expect. And some of these people, again, experience going to the light, or not quite getting into the light. Maybe they were pulled back before they got into the light. Who knows? Some of them, talked to what they said was God. Some people talked to what they said was Jesus. Some people said they experienced some type of hell and then came back, and they came back to life. So out of those experiences, when you really think about it, plus the fact that, a lot of people say that there is no human ghost, right? And they say that the human ghosts that you're interacting with, that you think you're interacting with, are evil spirits portraying themselves as human ghosts or like your deceased relative and things like that. I don't know if I'm convinced with that because generally speaking, when you're around it, like it's easy for somebody to stand on the outside and say that, like if somebody that goes to church every week and they have their faith and they're like, and they're just like, oh, you're speaking to evil spirits all the time, you know. But the thing is when you do it long enough, you actually can sort of tell the difference. Usually you can tell the difference between evil spirits and or things trying to trick you, or is just a ghost that just wants to talk for a second and then that's it. There's nothing malicious. There's nothing. So you can usually tell. And that's what I'm saying. Like when you are out in the field and you do it as long as I have, you do realize that, yeah, I believe in earth spirit ghosts. And I believe that they're here for a reason. I don't know exactly what. I speculate that some of them are serving a sentence. And then once that sentence is up and they have, you know, obviously seen the light, then they go to the light and then their spirit bodies are separated from their souls. Their souls now are accepted into heaven and they get a heavenly spirit body, and then their earthbound spirit body is reused with a new soul and sent back to earth, thus explaining reincarnation, why people have memories and you know why kids 2 to 5 tend to have these weird memories and past life experiences and believe that they are reincarnated. I don't believe in soul reincarnation. I believe in spirit body reincarnation. I think spirit bodies are getting reused because the spirit bodies that we're nested to here are earth. That's what plugs us into the earth spiritual network. Spirit bodies that, you know, when they get removed after judgment or after, you know, you're finally accepted in heaven, uh, or if you don't want to believe in heaven, maybe once you're, you know, moved to the spiritual network, the heavenly network, or like the universal network, then you get a different spirit body, right? But anyways, so um but I also think that again, so okay, so let me get back to like expected and unexpected. So when we leave our spirit body or our physical body, right? We have our spirit and our soul, and that leaves our body. Now, remember, we're not used to floating around as energy, right? As this spirit, corporeal form, you know what I mean? Like this, or this ghostly form. We're not used to this. And I think when you're facing an expected death, this is where we're getting visited. We're getting prepped. We got angels and family, like spirits, relatives, and it's like a welcoming party. They're coming, and then when you do pass on, they help to escort your energy, your spirit and soul into the light. I think the light has a slight gravitational effect as well. I think that also it's like a portal, right? And that's probably a portal to the next place, whether it's judgment or whatever it is. That portal goes to the next step. And when you expectedly die, I think that again, there's a welcoming party and they help escort your energy. You have no feet, you have no physical forms. So they're helping you. Like I think they help you into the light. When you die unexpectedly, I think that that's why the portal has a natural gravitational pull, because you die unexpectedly. And a lot of people, a lot of near death experiences, when they do have a light experience, they usually talk about they felt a pull to the light. And I think that that's that gravitation. I think that's part of that portal. And that's to help kind of guide lone spirits into the portal. That's just a theory. again, that's just a theory of mine after reading a ton of NDEs and looking at expected deaths and their things like that. It just makes sense to me that there would be that kind of system because the Bible does talk about portals, you know, and in fact, one of the scriptures in Enoch, which is not, I know it's not in the Bible, but Enoch talks about God's throne, like the even one of the rooms before God's throne. And of course, Enoch couldn't, look at God directly, but I mean, like in the room before that, there's like these uh, fire and like portals and stuff. It's like it's really cool. And again, the Bible itself talks about some things too. So you just got to read. But in any case, so we know there's like the light that everybody talks about. Now, you will see science tries to explain the light thing. They try to science it up and say, well, there's the light is because, and then they say only point whatever 1% of people that near death experiences see the light. But they try to explain it as a science thing. Like there's a scientific effect that they say of why you see a light. Well, I don't buy that. I don't buy the whole scientific theory of why you see a light because they said that there's such a low percentage. This is the scientists. Well, if there's such a low percentage of people seeing the light, how is it a science thing then? Because you would think that if scientifically we all pass away, the same science is going to apply to our deaths. And you would think there'd be a majority of these near death experiences that are going to see the light. So they're saying only a fraction of people see the light. Again, that's why I don't believe in the science part of the whole seeing the light thing. I think that's kind of lame. That's a lame excuse, and that's only because of the numbers. So their hypothesis it doesn't fit. Like there's no good resolution on that. So, but I bring all this up because I think that not all spirits go into the light. You know, some resist. Some resist. And I also think that it does appear that even spirits that have crossed into the light, it does seem as if God lets them come back for whatever reasons. Because I've had spirits that seem as if they have transitioned and still have wanted to just say hi to their family. You know what I mean? So I do think that they probably can use portals to visit and they can go back. That's just again what I seem to have noticed over the years. So I really, I'm always fascinated by it. Um, I just feel like, and I asked one of my good preacher friends, and I need to get him on here. I haven't had him on the show in years. I hope he's doing good. Jeez. But anyways, if you're watching, hit me up. I'm gonna have to probably hit you up. He probably doesn't watch my show anymore. But no, but one of my good friends, he was telling me that I asked him one time, I said, how long do you think a human spirit can hang out before they sorry, I hit the mic. How long do you think when you first die, like what's the longest you could hang out until you transition? Because he's not a big fan of the whole like a ghost is around for like 100 years or something. But I asked him, well, how long? So he said like 2 to 5 days. But I also said that, okay, well, in that realm, 2 to 5 days, what if time is different in the spirit world, right? And all of a sudden in the spirit world, things are a fraction of time, you know what I mean? So, I mean, 1,000 years compared to the existence of God or something is just a micro speck in time. You know what I mean? It's just like it's nothing. So who's to say that a spirit can't be here for a couple hundred years at the most, I would say, and they serve their time and then they're finally called. Or eventually, once they have their business is finished, then maybe God says, okay, your business is finished. You're ready to accept things, and here's the light. Come to the light now, and then they finally move to the light. So that's why I personally believe that there is some form of purgatory. I may not agree with all of the descriptions of it, but it just seems like that. It really does, with based on just talking with different spirits over the time. Excuse me. With the experiences I've had, it just really, I feel passionately about the fact that yes, there seems to be a life that we have physically, and when we die, there's a light that we will, and that's why I think that even your diehard Bible people, when they say that absent from the body is present with the Lord, I think they're right. But I also think there may be a delay in that. And I do think that when you look at the Catholics and you even talk about when Jesus talks about that there are some sins that can be forgiven in the next life, you know, um, like I kind of get how that could be interpreted as, forgivable sins, which if that's the case and that's what the, like the Catholics, then where would you wait it out? Right? And the way you would wait it out would have to be in like a purgatory. It wouldn't necessarily be hell. It wouldn't necessarily be heaven. It would be in this spirit world. And let's face it, if you're a Bible person, you know that before the new covenant, before Jesus Christ the Messiah, in the Old Testament, you had a purgatory, you had spirit realms. It's we know that. Okay. And um so like I said, there was a spirit world, and I don't know if and there actually was multiple realms of the spirit world. So there may be parts of the spirit world that were like your bad ghosts. Yeah, you may have your parts of your good spirits. Now, of course, there was back then, but you had them divided out, different ones, not just good and bad. There was like another one too. I think it was like 4 different ones or something. But the point is so there was spirit realms before Jesus Christ, and in again the Old Testament, things like that, ancient scriptures. You can look in Enoch and different things too as well. Look at all these different ancient scriptures, even the Jewish Torah talked about things like this. So there was spirit world. I don't think God just got rid of the spirit worlds with Jesus Christ. I think that's the new covenant. Like me personally, like if you want to get to God, then that's through Jesus Christ. But I think there's the spirit world, and I think there's a purgatory. And I think that some of us will, that are not necessarily the best of people, but yet, your heart is good. You're a good person overall. I think you may have to spend some time in purgatory for some things that we've done, and eventually we'll go to heaven. Hopefully, because it may be one of those things where you just might have to. So, but according to Jesus, he's saying that you can. There is forgivable sins in the next life. So, um, so just a little bit of talk about life after death tonight, and Christianity, and how some of it all possibly could go together. I don't know if there's anybody out there that wants to to make any comments or any questions that you may have as I start to wrap things up. I just wanted to get on here tonight, and again, it's something I've really been thinking about a lot. Just the whole, again, Christianity and ghost hunting thing. Um, and again, my friend really made me think about a lot of things. And I just wanted to cover some of these things and talk about some of these things with you guys out there, because I have had a lot of support. And just because you get a lot of support doesn't mean it makes you spiritually feel good sometimes. But I feel good about what I do. I feel like I help people out. I've helped people to, at least, if anything, start believing in God. And that's important. Whether you go to church, whether you pick up the Bible, even just believing in God is a start. Because if you can believe in ghosts and you can believe in these things, that's magic. It's supernatural. So why wouldn't you believe in God? Or just I mean, you could go and say that we're just kind of some kind of floating energy after this, and we're not necessarily conscious. But I mean, there's different takes, you know. Um, you could think about, well, you were always dead before you were alive, you know. But now that we experience life, you know, um, I think I think that we are unique souls, and I think that when we die, that soul is going to live on. That soul's going to live on. So I don't think it's over, and I know that because I've experienced, voices from beyond and things like that. I've experienced those things. So there's something out there. So I'm excited for it. But guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's discussion. Leave me any comments. I didn't get any comments tonight on live. I'm really surprised. I know some of you are out there watching. You're just kind of hiding back there tonight, but that's okay. But guys, don't forget, I do this just about every Thursday now. Was it next Thursday is going to be what? Thanksgiving, I think. So, oh, hey, Chuck, how's it going? See, I just like, it's always at the very end. See, what Chuck said, you seen Bill in a dream last night. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's good. And dreams are good. They're good. Usually. But whether or not, as long as it was something that you enjoyed, you know what I mean? I try not to ever knock too much on dreams. I had a pretty realistic dream last night, but most of the time I'm one of those people that I believe dreams are sort of a crazy self-inflicted thing. I don't know. There's some interesting stuff. We may be talking about some dream things actually, because there was an article that just came out, or not just exactly came out, but there was an article. I almost covered it tonight, but there was an article about this company had just recently made some kind of discovery or breakthrough, or something happened in one of their experiments where there was lucid communication between two people in their REM sleeps. So they're supposedly they're on the verge of just making some kind of dream breakthrough about dreams and communication and stuff. So I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna research a little more into that, and I may be bringing that up as a subject for one of our podcasts soon. I was reading like a shortened article version in this latest Paranormal Underground magazine, which is the sponsor of our show right here. So if you don't have Paranormal Underground magazine, make sure you go to paranormalunderground.net and tell them Josh sent you. You can get a free year of amazing. I think it might even just be free. I keep telling people free year, but so many people are like, well, they never charge me, like even after the year. But it's fully illustrated, digital magazine, articles, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, but no, I mean, I hope it was a good dream, Chuck, you know, and I know he was a good friend and, things like that. And I know, um, like I said, I have dreams and I had some pretty realistic dreams. There was only a few dreams that I believe were not just dreams. I think some of them were memories. There was a couple of them that were so real. They were the most real type dreams I ever had, as if they were memories. And they were two of those were deaths. So I believe in different time eras. So I believe these were memories left over from somebody else's spirit body that I inherited. And one of those was from like a pioneering time, and another one was a death in like the 60s or something when, uh, apparently I lost control of a car, went into a lake. At the end, I can explain everything, but I don't want to go into too much detail. But ultimately, I drowned in the car. So, um, so could explain why I don't do a lot of swimming. I used to love swimming as a kid. That's the thing. And then I don't know, as an adult, maybe I just started getting a little more subconscious. But anyways, guys, don't forget to join me. I'm going to be doing this every Thursday night again. I know it was like a little weird over the holidays because I was doing a lot of filming. Um, I wasn't even able to do a lot of my fun. I'm part of a league that I do online, and I wasn't even getting to do a lot of that. I'm just now being able to start getting back, doing some more of that. Um, but Halloween, the month of October was crazy, and I had to do these shows on Wednesdays. Now we're going to start going back to Thursdays again, which has been that's been the traditional Thursday show for years. And so I'm going to be back to doing that. Hopefully next Thursday will be Thanksgiving, so we may not do a show on Thanksgiving. I don't know. I might come on here and we might just talk a little bit. Who knows? Um, but I don't expect you guys to show up probably next week. I wish you all a good Thanksgiving if I don't see you guys. And but thank you all. Good seeing you, Chuck. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.